Around the world, this cap and trade as a tool for climate mitigation, climate change mitigation, continues to be debated, especially because of the way it was implemented with these um permits. In fact, we'll see here that permits could be bought and banked for the future. And when you have trading, a low emitter selling permits to a high emitter, then you actually do not incentivize total reduction in emission, especially if the permits are cheap. Then the high emitter may just be willing to pay the fine, pay the excess, and buy permits and continue to make profit while emitting more and more. Right? So you have to be careful about how this market-based tool actually works. California had something called RECLAIM, Regional Clean Air Incentive Market, which was an emissions cap and trade program that was implemented in 1994 by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, very complicated acronym here, to help the South Coast Air Basin, which is the inversion area where the emissions get trapped and you get these smog problems that we looked at going back to 1940s. Okay, this is another supposedly market-based tool that was tried, but actually the experience was, as is referred to here, quite bruising. Because the cap and trade program for NOx was partially suspended after permit prices rose from about 2,000 to more than 120,000 per ton during California's electricity crisis. The electricity crisis became so bad, I think there was a recall of a Governor Davis, if I remember right, but you can look that up. So that kind of an experience is going to make people nervous about cap and trade. Nonetheless, based on the European Union's exchange trade emissions trading system and California's RECLAIM, two innovations were made. An auction reserve price. This is the minimum price at which California Air Resource Board will sell allowances. It started at $10 in November 2012 and rises each year at 5% plus inflation. 5% set increase plus inflation. The reserve price ensures that cap and trade will always provide a financial incentive to reduce emissions, and it avoids the risk that price will fall to zero. Okay, so it's kind of a regulated market instead of a completely free market. Okay, so it's a constrained market based policy. An allowance reserve or safety valve. This is an extra pool of allowances that CARB only issues if the price rises above a given level. So this crazy thing of permits reaching 120,000 per ton is not going to happen because there is a cap, a safety valve set up as well. So that is meant to avoid the cap and trade market going crazy. With that, California's cap and trade experience has successes, like AB 32 reaching the target by 2016, but there are obviously criticisms that there was reshuffling going on where energy companies sold their stake in coal burning power plants and replaced them with clean energy, but they didn't actually stop the coal burning plants from operating. So coal burning plants just started selling power to other states. So total emission for the country or for the world wouldn't go down. So California may feel better that it did something, but it didn't actually take care of the actual problem. It's called reshuffling. Offsetting, carbon offsetting is where one company can pay somebody to plant forests somewhere to remove the excess carbon, additionality it's called. But the additionality is not always easy to ensure that the money given to offset may have happened anyways. So if China is doing afforestation to meet its own goals set internally or to meet Paris Agreement or whatever, then it would have done it anyways, but it will say, okay, we'll take the offset money. Okay, I'm just using it as an example. So offsetting is another criticism. Banking, where lots of companies bought permits and hoarded them for the future. So this allows them room to emit in the future because they already have permits they can use in the future, and obviously that also amounts to tampering with the prices in some sense, because if the prices are supposed to increase 5% plus inflation, but you can buy it and hoard it, then obviously the purpose is lost a little bit there. Equity and environmental justice issues, as I mentioned before, cap and trade focuses on carbon, doesn't necessarily account for other pollutants like particulate matter, ozone precursors, and so on. And this always ends up in disparity because the poor neighborhoods may be hosting the dirty power plants or other services. So equity and environmental justice is not fully covered by this. Nonetheless, use of revenues for from cap and trade is put into these kind of activities to serve the underprivileged. So low carbon transportation, high speed rail, affordable housing and sustainable communities program, other transportations and sustainable communities, clean air, clean energy and energy efficiency, natural resources, and waste diversion. Here again, the idea that the California has local control on land use, it still made room for what are called free riders. So some counties could allow their citizens to drive around happily to go to the malls and restaurants and parks or whatever, and not provide public transportation because they are free riding on other counties which are more progressive, let's say, and taking care of putting housing near public transit, reducing commuter miles, building mixed neighborhoods and reducing travel times, and so on and so forth. So this free rider problem happens at all scales, as we will see, but in California that turned out to be one of the problems. And it's not so easy to deal with free riders, but over the long run you want to be sure that the free riders don't bankrupt the system, which is being run by other states, other counties and cities and so on. Like San Francisco may always be ahead of the curve in doing things that are right, but the richer places like Carmel, or whatever you can think of. Carmel came to mind because our friend Clint Eastwood was the mayor there, and he's very strong conservative man. So his ideas on climate change would be presumably very different. Arnold Schwarzenegger was very progressive, but not necessarily Clint Eastwood. So these are the issues that have to be dealt with.